Most developers think Redis is just a cache. That's the biggest misconception. Yes, Redis can make your app faster by storing frequently used data in memory. But in real systems, Redis is used for way more than caching. It can store user sessions, power leaderboards, limit API requests, handle real-time messaging, manage distributed locks, and reduce pressure on your main DB when traffic suddenly spikes. Hi friends, I'm Maddie. I'm a senior software engineer who previously worked at Google, Intern at other big tech companies like Amazon, IBM, and Microsoft, and I've leaned on Redis-style in-memory stores in production systems serving millions of requests. So fundamentally, here's the unintuitive thing about Redis. Redis is built on one design decision that sounds like a terrible idea. It runs your commands on a single thread. By the end of this video, you'll understand why that actually makes Redis fast, what developers build with it, and the trade-offs that show up in system design interviews and real production systems: persistence, eviction, scaling, and hotkeys. Let's get into it. First, what exactly is Redis? Redis stands for Remote Dictionary Server. It's not just a cache, it's a data structure server. You know how in your code you use hash maps, sets, and sorted lists? Redis takes those exact data structures, puts them in RAM on a server, and lets every instance of your application share them over the network. Now, a fair question you might have is, so my app already has hash maps, why pay a network round trip to use one on another server? The answer here is shared state. The moment you run more than one instance of your service, which is every production system out there, an in-process hash map fragments. Each instance has its own copy and they might disagree. Redis gives every instance one consistent atomic view of that data with sub-millisecond access. So we can start with where the data lives. All of it sits in memory. Reading from RAM takes around 100 nanoseconds. A disk read is in the microsecond to millisecond range. That's multiple orders of magnitude slower. So Redis answers most requests in under a millisecond, which is why it sits in front of slower databases like Postgres or MySQL. Then there's how commands run on a single thread, one at a time. So there's no locks, no race conditions, no two writes colliding on the same key. Every single operation is atomic by default. And finally, the data structure part. It's a key value model, but the value isn't just a string. It can be a list, hash, a set, a sorted set, or a stream, each with its own specialized commands. As a quick aside, when I was researching this video, I had to pull together a lot of docs, benchmarks, and a bunch of architecture diagrams, and that kind of multi-step busy work is exactly what I've been offloading to today's sponsor, GenSpark. GenSpark is an all-in-one AI workspace powered by every leading model: GPT, Claude, Gemini, Veo, Sora, 11 Labs, and more. So instead of paying for 5 different AI subscriptions and juggling 20 tabs, you have one workspace where one prompt gets the whole job done. What I really like about GenSpark is that the features work together as one consolidated workflow instead of 10 disconnected tools. For example, I gave its super agent a single prompt to research Redis for me, and it pulled sources from across the web, generated a full slide deck with diagrams using AI slides, and organized the supporting data into a spreadsheet with AI sheets end to end without me touching 3 separate tools.
I love that you can edit these PowerPoints and sheets directly in GenSpark without needing to open a separate window.
The other feature I use a lot is AI chat, where you can ask GPT, Claude, and Gemini the same question side by side and compare answers with no message caps, which is great when I'm debugging something stubborn and want a second opinion. And it goes way beyond text. GenSpark handles image and video generation, designing thumbnails, building working websites from a single prompt with its code feature, and there's Call for Me, which makes real phone calls on your behalf.
We need to confirm if you're open 24/7 and, if possible, reserve Saturday, June 27th at 2:00 a.m. for 3 under Maddie.
It'll literally call 10 restaurants until it finds you a table. If you sign up through my link in the description, you'll get free credits to try all this yourself. Thanks to GenSpark for sponsoring this video. Now, let's talk about why Redis is so fast. There are 4 fundamental reasons. Reason 1, memory. Obviously, every operation skips the disk entirely, so the slowest part of a typical database, I/O, just isn't there. Reason 2, the lookup itself is O of 1. Under the hood, Redis keeps a giant hash table mapping keys to values. Whether you're storing 1,000 keys or 100 million, finding one takes constant time. Compare that to a relational database that might walk a B-tree index and read pages off disk. Reason 3, and this is one that's pretty counterintuitive. The single thread is a feature, not a bug or a limitation. When your bottleneck is memory access, not CPU, multiple threads mostly buy you overhead, context switching, lock retention, cache invalidation between cores. Redis skips all of it. One thread runs an event loop with non-blocking I/O, so it can hold thousands of open client connections simultaneously, and while one client's response is traveling over the network, the thread is already executing the next client's command. One worker that's that's never idle, that's the whole trick. To be precise, Redis 6 and newer do use a few extra threads for network I/O, but the actual command logic still runs sequentially, which is why every command stays atomic. Reason 4, it's written in C with hand-tuned memory management and data structures optimized down to cache locality. There's no garbage collector pausing things at random. There is a catch though. If you run one slow command, like scanning a massive collection, every other client waits behind it. A single bad query can stall your entire cache. That's a classic production incident, and it can be a good detail to bring up in interviews. Okay, so we get it. Redis is fast. So what? Let's talk about the patterns you'll actually use. Pattern 1 is caching. Here's the classic cache aside pattern. Your service checks Redis first. If you get a cache hit, return immediately. If you get a cache miss, query the database, write the result into Redis with a TTL, a time to live of say 5 minutes, and return it. The TTL keeps data from going permanently stale. And because Redis is finite, you configure a max memory limit with an eviction policy like LRU. So when memory fills up, the least recently used keys get kicked out automatically. Here's where I want to talk about cache stampedes. If a popular key expires and 10,000 requests miss at the same instant, they all hit your database simultaneously. The common fixes are jittering your TTLs so keys don't expire in sync, or letting one request rebuild the value while the others briefly serve the stale copy. Pattern 2 is rate limiting. Say you want to cap an API at 100 requests per minute per user. You can increment a key like rate user 1, set a 60-second TTL on it, and reject requests once the counter passed 100. Because that's atomic, 1,000 concurrent requests can't corrupt the count. There's no locks or coordination service, just 3 commands and you're golden. Pattern 3 is leaderboards with sorted sets. A sorted set keeps every member ordered by a score with logarithmic time inserts and updates. Think of a LeetCode style contest ranking. Every time someone solves a problem, you update their score with ZAD, and fetching the live top 10 is a single Z-range command. Building that on SQL means resorting or maintaining indexes on every write. In Redis, it's the native data structure. Pattern 4 is session storage with hashes. When a user logs in, you store their session, so their user IDs, permissions, preferences as a Redis hash under a key like session ABC123 with the TTL matching your session length. Any of your servers can read it on any request, so users stay logged in no matter which instance handles them. And a hash lets you read or update a single field without deserializing the whole object. This is one of the most common Redis workloads in the wild. Pattern 5 is distributed locks. Sometimes you need to guarantee that only one worker across your whole fleet runs a job, say a nightly billing task. Redis handles this with a single command. Set the lock key with NX, meaning only if it doesn't exist, and PX, a timeout so a crashed worker can't hold the lock forever. Whoever set succeeds owns the lock. Everyone else backs off. Because commands are atomic, there's no race between checking and setting. There are sharper edge cases here. That's what the red lock algorithm exists for, but the single instance version covers a surprising amount of real-world ground. Pattern 6 is real-time messaging with pub sub. Servers subscribe to channels. Anyone can publish to them. In a chat app, when user A on server 1 messages user B connected to server 2, server 1 just publishes to user B's channel and Reddit routes it instantly. One caveat is that pub sub is at most once delivery. If the subscriber is disconnected, the message is gone. If you need guaranteed delivery, you reach for Redis streams, an append-only log with consumer groups that's essentially a lightweight Kafka or a dedicated message queue. Now, let's talk about what happens if we encounter a failure in a Redis system. It's all in RAM. What happens when the server dies? By default, the data is gone. For a pure cache, that's probably fine. Your database is still the source of truth and the cache rebuilds itself on demand. The only cost is a slow few minutes while it warms up. But if Redis holds data you care about, you've got 2 persistence options. RDB snapshots write the entire database to disk every few minutes. This is cheap and great for fast restarts, but you lose everything since the last snapshot. AOF, the append-only file, logs every write command, typically flushing to disk once per second, so a crash costs you at most about 1 second of writes. Most production setups run both, AOF for durability, RDB for fast recovery. But honestly, the persistence settings are the least interesting question. The interesting one is this: should Redis be holding your only copy of anything? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. Your system of record stays in Postgres or whatever durable store you trust, and Redis handles the fast-moving, rebuildable stuff it was built for. Last but not least, let's talk about scaling. What happens when one instance isn't enough? If reads are the bottleneck, you add replicas. The primary takes all writes and stream changes to replicas, which serve read traffic. As a bonus, if the primary dies, a replica gets promoted, so you also get high availability. If writes are the bottleneck, you shard. You split the key space across multiple independent instances, usually by hashing the key. You can do this client-side with consistent hashing, or use Redis Cluster, which handles sharding and failover for you at the cost of more operational complexity. Something worth taking note is that a single key, like one giant sorted set, can't be split across nodes, so hotkeys are a real scaling problem. In conclusion, this was Redis 101, one deliberately simple design composed of single-threaded, in-memory, real data structures and an entire ecosystem of patterns built on top of it. And that's all I have for you in this video. If this was helpful, hit that like button, hype the video, and subscribe. I make videos on system design, AI concepts, and career development every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.